Welcome back to Kids Life. I'm sitting with Kathy Walker and we'll be addressing the issue of self-esteem with children. Now, what's the most powerful way of developing a child's self-esteem?
When a child's born, they have no sense of themselves or self-esteem, and so it's a great thing actually, because the most wonderful way of developing a self-esteem is simply parents' perspective, feedback, language, interactions with children to really help them feel valued for who they are, not necessarily always what they do, but for who they are. So the parent role in developing self-esteem is a really critical thing.
So showing a child you love them in certain ways.
Absolutely.
Is there an issue of over-smothering sometimes?
People often mention that, but you know, I think Australian culture has done this poorly in the past. I think that there's no research that shows we can spoil a child by affirming them, by encouraging them, by loving them, and by telling them that we love them. I think, you know, little strategies for parents, like just when you're sitting with them at the end of the day saying, it's really nice to be with you, I really like spending time with you. Just affirming them, not for, you know, oh, you did that well, or thanks for obeying me or whatever, but just affirming them for who they are and how much you enjoy them as little people, I think is very important.
Now, if a child does something wrong, so they come home from school or they drop something and they break something, what would be the best way of addressing that without putting the child down?
I think what we have to do, and it's a really good handy hint for us all, is to always separate the child from their behaviour. So the child who constantly hears things like, you are naughty, you never listen, you didn't do that, that's not good to build self-esteem. But for a parent to be able to say, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, we'll have to clean that up, you'll need to be more careful next time, separates the child from their actual behaviour, and I think that's a very important strategy to remember.
What are some strategies of self-concept enhancement?
I think the main strategies are that parents are affirming, that we're encouraging our children to have a go at things, that we're, as I said, separating their behaviour from who they are as a child, that we're giving them positive feedback in their attempts at things, but that it's not always conditional, that the love, the care, the acceptance is unconditional. It's not based on needing to earn approval, it's not having to earn someone's love. And that way a child develops an inner sense of, I'm okay even when I muck up. I'm an okay person even when sometimes I get into trouble. I'm still loved and cared about for me.
What are the signs when a child's showing signs of low self-esteem?
I think we all go through stages where we don't feel as confident, where we have some down days, and so I don't want parents to worry that their child has a low self-esteem. But it is true that for some children, if they get those negative messages over and over, they might start to disengage, to withdraw, to not try, to give up more. And I think we need to really be careful and watch out for those signs and really do a lot to boost them and to affirm them and to help them feel okay about themselves.
Fantastic. Kathy, can you please help us understand the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Self-esteem is that essential belief about ourselves, about who we are. Self-confidence or self-competence is much more about a belief about some of the things that we can do. We might have confidence that we can spell the right words, that we can answer questions okay in school, that we're good at a particular sport or work or career. But even if we're good at some things, it doesn't necessarily mean we'll feel good about who we are. And so the aim in self-concept is to have both the confidence in oneself, but also to believe in oneself, so that even when things go wrong and you're not always competent at everything, you don't associate your competence with who you are as a person. And that's a really key point for little children as they're growing up, that they feel really confident about what they can do, but essentially good about themselves.
Now, this actually might come down to, you know, in primary school when a kid's really, really talented at something, but sometimes doesn't put themselves forward, a fear of other kids putting them down.
Exactly, that's exactly how it is, that they might believe they've got an ability, they might be really interested in doing something, but if they're not feeling okay about themselves, they're a bit hesitant, they've received negative feedback about who they are in the past, they may not put themselves forward. And that's why when we talk about self-concept and in relationship to learning or life, you've got to have both. Your esteem, you've got to feel good about yourself, and you've got to have a belief about the things that you can take on and have a go at.
Now, what happens if you have more than one child and one child's very very talented and puts themselves forward while the other child's almost in their shadow?
Yeah, that can happen sometimes, because we often, of course, know that we've all got different personalities and different roles and different positions in the family. Often we live out different roles. The best thing there is for parents always to see and view and treat each child very much as an individual, never to compare them, never to say, oh, your big brother used to do that, or your little sister can do that, or that's not as good, or you're 6, you should know better. I think it's better to avoid any comparison or competition and just give a message to each child that whoever they are, whatever their personality, whatever their talents, they're accepted and loved for who they are, and it doesn't have to be a competition.
And what would be a form of disciplining that then? If we're always affirming, you're an individual, what if they do something that you think is unacceptable? What would be the appropriate way to deal with it?
It depends a little bit on what the actual misdemeanour is, but usually we'd say that talking to the child, redirecting them, giving them an option, giving them an alternative, rather than thinking, oh, I must punish or I must stick them in a naughty corner. It's just really about nurturing our children rather than actually training them and punishing them.
If you want to find out more information, jump to www.kidslife.com.au. Thanks for joining me, Kathy.
You're welcome.